The icy, rain-soaked streets of Maplewood, Oregon, lay like a merciless expanse beneath a brooding sky as Sarah and her young daughter, Grace, plodded through the relentless downpour. The once picturesque town, known for its charming little shops and delightful cottages, now seemed transformed into a harsh and unwelcoming landscape, enveloped in dark, ominous clouds and torrential rain that seemed to echo their desolation. "Mommy, I'm so cold," Grace's tiny voice broke through the storm, trembling with a mixture of discomfort and fear. Her small hands were clenched into tight little fists, her face flushed from the biting chill. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. "We'll find somewhere warm soon," sweetheart, Sarah said, her voice laced with a strained effort to sound reassuring. The promise felt weak, a mere shadow of the comfort she wished she could provide. As she spoke, her eyes scanned the forlorn street with desperate hope, seeking any sign of shelter or solace. Since her husband had abandoned them, leaving her alone and pregnant, the memories of happier, more secure times seemed like distant dreams, tainted now by the cold reality of their plight. The pedestrians hurried by, their faces turned down to avoid the storm and the sight of Sarah's struggle. Each passing figure, indifferent and hurried, seemed to deepen Sarah's sense of isolation. The cold, hard glances that occasionally met her eyes felt like piercing jabs of rejection, further weighing down her already heavy heart. "Excuse me, Mom," Sarah called out with a voice that wavered between hope and desperation as she reached out to a woman briskly making her way down the street. The woman, however, ignored her plea with an almost imperceptible shudder, pulling her coat tighter against the onslaught of rain, as if to shield herself from the world's discomfort. Sarah watched as the woman's figure vanished into the mist, a pang of sadness mingling with the chilling rain. Determined to find any form of respite, Sarah's gaze finally landed on a small storefront up ahead, its modest awning offering a glimmer of hope amidst the relentless downpour. With a renewed sense of purpose, she guided Grace towards it, the slight shelter from the rain providing a momentary, yet deeply cherished, reprieve. As they huddled together beneath the awning, Sarah enveloped Grace in her arms, her embrace a desperate attempt to infuse warmth into her shivering child. The brief shelter from the storm offered them a fleeting moment of peace, yet the harsh reality of their situation remained palpable. As Sarah held Grace close, she could feel the tiny tremors of her daughter's body and the weight of their circumstances pressing down on her shoulders. The world outside continued to thrash against the awning, but within this small space of temporary refuge, Sarah clung to the hope that, somehow, they would find a way through this storm, not just of weather, but of life itself. "Look, Mommy, it's not raining here," Grace said, her voice full of childlike wonder as a fragile smile began to emerge despite her chattering teeth. Her innocent optimism cut through the gloom like a beacon, touching Sarah's heart and reigniting her determination to persevere. "Stay right here, sweetie. I'll be back in just a moment," Sarah said gently, her voice laced with the promise of a brighter hope. She rose with a sense of urgency and approached a man who was in the process of closing up his shop. The evening air was colder now, and the rain seemed to have grown more relentless. "Sir, please, do you have any food you might be able to spare?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly, betraying her worry and exhaustion. The man regarded her with a mix of pity and guarded concern, his eyes revealing the struggle between empathy and caution. After a brief pause, he reached into a small bag he carried and produced a sandwich, handing it to Sarah with a look of quiet sympathy. "It's not much, but it's all I can offer right now," he said, his voice warm despite the chill in the air. Thank you so much," Sarah responded, her eyes brimming with tears of relief and gratitude. She clutched the sandwich tightly as she hurried back to Grace, her heart aching with the desire to bring her daughter some comfort. She handed the sandwich to Grace, who eagerly took it with a look of pure joy lighting up her face. As Grace took her first bite, Sarah watched her daughter's expression transform from cold weariness to simple, radiant happiness. The sight filled Sarah with a profound sense of strength and resolve. Her daughter's unwavering hope, even in the face of adversity, became a source of inspiration for Sarah, fueling her determination to push through. As the day transitioned into evening, the darkness began to creep in, and the temperature continued to plummet. The rain's relentless assault showed no signs of easing, casting a heavy, persistent mist over Maplewood. The scant protection of the storefront awning offered a small but critical sanctuary from the biting cold. "Mommy, are we going to stay here tonight?" Grace's voice, now soft and weary, reflected the fading light and the growing weight of their situation. Her earlier enthusiasm had dimmed, replaced by a palpable tiredness that mirrored the encroaching darkness. Sarah wrapped her arms around Grace, pulling her close as they huddled together under the meager shelter. The cold seeped into their bones, but within the small embrace of the awning, Sarah clung to the hope that somehow the night would pass, and a new day would bring with it the promise of change and a return to warmth and safety. "We'll find somewhere safer soon," Sarah said, her voice carrying a reassuring steadiness despite the growing uncertainty that loomed over them. She pulled her coat tighter around Grace, determined to shield her from the biting cold. Just then, Sarah's attention was drawn to an elderly man staggering through the torrential rain. His frail, hunched figure was barely discernible through the relentless sheets of water, and he appeared disoriented and uncertain as he approached the meager cover of the awning. "Excuse me, sir. Are you all right?" Sarah's voice cut through the storm, filled with genuine concern. The elderly man looked up, his eyes clouded with weariness and confusion, and his steps faltered as he tried to find his way. I seem to have lost my way," he stammered, his voice quivering with anxiety. "My name is Jacob. I was out for a walk, and somehow I must have taken a wrong turn." Sarah's heart ached at the sight of the vulnerable old man. Despite her struggles, a wave of compassion surged through her, compelling her to act. "Come under here out of the rain," she said warmly, making room beneath the scant shelter of the awning. "You shouldn't be out in this weather." Jacob gratefully stepped under the awning, his body visibly shivering as he sought refuge. "Thank you, young lady. I don't know what I would have done without your kindness," he said, his voice trembling with relief and gratitude. Sarah quickly rummaged through her small bag, her fingers trembling slightly as she pulled out the last piece of bread she had saved for Grace. She hesitated for a moment, then decided to share it. Along with the bread, she handed Jacob a few coins. "Here, take this. It's not much, but it should help you find your way home," she offered, her voice soft yet resolute. "Mommy, that was for us," Grace whispered, her eyes wide with surprise and a hint of confusion. "I know, darling, but Mr. Jacob needs it more right now," Sarah explained gently, brushing a wet strand of hair from Grace's forehead. Jacob's eyes filled with tears of gratitude as he accepted the bread and coins. "You are too kind," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "I have nothing to offer in return, but I believe the kindness you've shown me tonight will come back to you in ways you cannot yet imagine." Sarah smiled warmly, deeply touched by his heartfelt words. "Thank you, Mr. Jacob. I hope you get home safely," she said sincerely. Jacob nodded, wiping away his tears, and offered a heartfelt blessing. "Bless you and your little girl," he said, his voice filled with deep emotion. He provided Sarah with a description of where he lived, and she gave him clear directions, ensuring he felt confident about finding his way. As Jacob turned and disappeared into the rain, Sarah felt a profound sense of peace wash over her. Despite the harsh reality of their situation, she knew she had acted with integrity and compassion. "See, Grace, sometimes we have to help others even when we don't have much ourselves. It's what makes us truly human," Sarah said, her voice imbued with a gentle wisdom. Grace nodded, her eyes reflecting a newfound understanding of the deeper lessons in their shared hardship. "Mommy, you're a good person," Grace said, her voice filled with admiration as she hugged Sarah tightly. They remained huddled under the modest awning, taking comfort in each other's presence while the rain continued its relentless descent. The soothing sound of raindrops and the distant hum of the town created a quiet, contemplative backdrop. Sarah's heart felt lighter, buoyed by the simple yet profound act of kindness she had extended to Jacob. As the night grew colder, Sarah knew it was time to seek a new refuge. She gently squeezed Grace's hand. "Let's find a better place to sleep," she said with determination. They ventured back into the rain, their spirits lifted by their recent encounter. The streets of Maplewood were hushed and serene, bathed in the gentle light of street lamps that flickered intermittently. After a while, they stumbled upon a small park, its centerpiece a sturdy gazebo that offered a semblance of shelter from the elements. It wasn't much, but it was a significant improvement over their previous predicament. Sarah quickly set about arranging their few belongings, fashioning a makeshift bed for Grace from the thin blanket they had. She tucked her daughter in, creating a small haven amid the dampness. "Mommy will miss her." "Jacob be okay," Grace's voice, though tired, was tinged with concern as she settled into her bed. "I believe he will be just fine, sweetheart, and so will we," Sarah reassured her, pressing a gentle kiss to Grace's forehead. "Now, close your eyes and rest. Tomorrow is a new day, and we'll face it together." Grace nestled into the makeshift bed, her exhaustion quickly overtaking her as she drifted into a peaceful sleep. Sarah remained seated beside her, her thoughts wandering to Jacob's heartfelt words. In the quiet of the night, she offered a silent prayer, hoping fervently for a brighter future for herself and Grace, and for the reassurance that their struggles would lead to better days. The evening air was crisp, carrying the lingering scent of rain as Sarah and Grace made their way through the now tranquil streets of Maplewood. The storm had finally subsided, leaving the town cloaked in a cool, damp serenity. The streetlights cast elongated shadows, and the occasional rumble of a passing car was the only disruption to the stillness of the night. "Mommy, I'm so hungry," Grace whispered, her small hand clinging to Sarah's. Her tired eyes reflected an innocence and vulnerability that seemed to glow even in the dim light. "I know, sweetie," Sarah replied softly, her voice resolute yet gentle. "We'll find something to eat soon." As they walked, a warm, inviting glow from a small diner caught Sarah's eye. The sign above the door read Maggie's Diner, and the tantalizing aroma of home-cooked meals wafted through the air, making Sarah's stomach rumble in response. With renewed hope, she approached the entrance, gathering her courage to ask for help. "Wait here," Grace Sarah said, kneeling to look into her daughter's eyes. "I'm going to see if they have any leftover food." Grace nodded, her trust in her mother unwavering despite the challenges they faced. Sarah took a deep breath and stepped inside, hoping for a miracle that would ease their hunger and bring a touch of warmth to their cold, weary night. "Okay, Mommy," Grace replied softly, her trust unwavering. Sarah stepped into the cozy diner, the warmth and light inside starkly contrasting with the cold, rainy night outside. The space was filled with the comforting aroma of coffee and the subtle clatter of cutlery. A few late-night patrons were finishing their meals, and the ambience felt like a gentle embrace after their long, difficult day. Sarah made her way to the counter, where a kindly woman with graying hair and a warm, inviting smile was diligently wiping down the surface. The woman looked up as Sarah approached, her eyes reflecting a genuine kindness. "Excuse me, Ma," Sarah began, her voice trembling with a mix of hope and anxiety. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I was wondering if you might have any leftovers. My daughter and I haven't had much to eat today, and we're quite hungry." The woman's eyes softened with compassion as she took in Sarah's weary appearance. "Of course, dear. My name's Maggie. "Let me see what I can find for you," she said kindly before disappearing into the kitchen. Sarah took a moment to glance around the diner. The cozy booths, the smell of freshly brewed coffee, and the soft murmur of conversation created a sense of sanctuary that was deeply comforting. She felt a pang of relief as the warmth began to seep into her bones. A few moments later, Maggie returned with a generous plate of food, steaming hot soup, chunks of freshly baked bread, and a small slice of apple pie. She placed the plate in front of Sarah with a gentle smile. "Here you go, dear. Please take this and have a seat. I'll bring something for your daughter as well," she said with a reassuring tone. Sarah's eyes filled with tears of gratitude as she took the plate. "Thank you so much, Maggie. You have no idea how much this means to us," she said, her voice choked with emotion. Maggie waved her hand dismissively, her smile warm. "It's nothing. Everyone needs a little help sometimes." Sarah nodded, deeply moved by the woman's kindness. She motioned for Grace to come inside, and Grace's eyes widened with delight as she saw the food. "Look, Mommy, it's a feast," she exclaimed with unfiltered joy. They sat down at a booth near the window, the warmth of the diner enveloping them like a comforting blanket. Maggie soon returned with another plate for Grace, along with 2 steaming mugs of hot cocoa. The rich, velvety aroma of the cocoa was almost as comforting as the warmth it provided. "Thank you," Grace said, her voice filled with genuine awe as she gazed at the food and the cocoa. She looked at Sarah with wide, grateful eyes. Sarah nodded approvingly and reached for Grace's small hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. As they began to eat, the simple pleasure of the meal and the kindness they had received made the world seem a little less bleak. Sarah savored each bite, feeling a surge of relief and gratitude. In that moment, surrounded by warmth and care, she found a glimmer of hope for the future. The cozy diner, with its comforting atmosphere and Maggie's unexpected generosity, offered Sarah and Grace not just a meal, but a profound reminder of human kindness and the unexpected support that can emerge even in the darkest times. "Let's take a moment to say a prayer," Sarah suggested, her voice soft but filled with sincerity. Together they bowed their heads, seeking solace in a simple act of gratitude. "Thank you, God, for this meal, and for the generous hearts that have helped us today. Please bless Maggie and keep her safe. Amen." As they began to eat, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of relief. The warmth of the soup and the comforting flavors of the bread and pie provided a temporary respite from their struggles. The kindness of Maggie and the cozy ambience of the diner wrapped around Sarah like a gentle embrace, soothing her weary soul. Throughout their meal, Maggie checked on them frequently, her presence a source of comfort and kindness. Each visit was a reminder that, even in the darkest moments, there were still pockets of humanity that shone brightly. When it was time to leave, Sarah approached Maggie once more, her heart full of gratitude. "Thank you again for everything," she said earnestly. "You've made what was a very tough day so much easier." Maggie's smile was warm and reassuring. "It's my pleasure. Remember, sometimes life provides us with exactly what we need at the most unexpected moments. You take care now." As Sarah and Grace stepped back into the crisp night air, the street seemed slightly brighter, their burdens a bit lighter. They walked home with a renewed sense of hope, buoyed by the kindness they had received. Suddenly, a shout from behind made Sarah turn. She forced back her tears, determined not to let Grace see her despair. "Mommy, why is that man so angry?" Grace asked, her innocent voice tinged with confusion as she pointed to a figure in the distance. "Some people just don't understand," Sweetie, Sarah replied gently, trying to maintain her composure. "But we'll find somewhere else to go. Don't worry." Just as they were about to turn a corner, a gentle voice called out to them from the shadows. "Excuse me, are you okay?" A woman in her mid-40s, with compassionate eyes and a warm, reassuring smile, approached them. She wore a light blue raincoat and held an umbrella that shielded her from the persistent drizzle. Sarah looked up, her eyes meeting the woman's kind gaze. "We're fine, thank you," she said, though her exhaustion was evident in her voice. The woman reached out and touched Sarah's arm gently, her gesture full of empathy. "I saw what happened back there," the woman said softly. "I'm truly sorry you had to go through that. My name is Emily. Can I help you in any way?" Sarah felt a lump form in her throat, and despite her best efforts, a tear escaped down her cheek. "We just need a place to stay dry," she admitted, her voice breaking with emotion. Emily's expression softened further, her kindness evident. "Come with me," she said warmly. "There's a cafe just around the corner. We can sit there for a while, and I'll get you something warm to drink." Overwhelmed with relief and gratitude, Sarah nodded. "Thank you, Emily. You don't know how much this means to us." They followed Emily to the cafe, a small, inviting haven that exuded the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods. As they stepped inside, the warmth of the cafe enveloped them, providing a stark contrast to the chilly, wet street they had just left behind. Emily led them to a cozy table by the window and went to order their drinks. Grace's eyes widened with wonder as she took in the cafe's charm. "Mommy, it's so nice here," she whispered in awe. Sarah managed a weary but grateful smile. "Yes, it is. We're very fortunate to have met Emily." Moments later, Emily returned with 2 steaming mugs of hot chocolate and a cup of tea. She placed the drinks on the table and sat down with a gentle smile, her eyes reflecting a deep empathy and warmth. The comforting beverages, along with the cozy ambience of the cafe, made the world outside seem a little less daunting and a lot more hopeful. Sarah felt her heart sink further as the cold water drenched their clothes. The laughter of the teenagers felt like a cruel mockery of their already dire situation. She tried to shield Grace as best as she could, but the water seeped through, leaving them both shivering. "Mommy, why did they laugh?" Grace asked, her voice trembling as she looked up at her mother, her eyes wide and innocent. "They were just being unkind, sweetheart," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the hurt she felt. "But we can't let that bring us down. We need to keep moving and stay hopeful." They continued walking through the rain, the cold seeping into their bones. Sarah's thoughts were heavy, burdened by the relentless challenges they faced. The rain seemed to fall with a new intensity, matching the growing weight of her worries. She tried to focus on finding a warm and dry place for them to rest. As they approached a large, abandoned building, Sarah noticed an old, sheltered entrance that might provide some temporary refuge from the rain. It wasn't ideal, but it was dry and better than nothing. She guided Grace toward it, setting their few belongings down and trying to make them comfortable. "We'll stay here for a bit," Sarah said, her voice gentle as she wrapped Grace in a blanket she had found in their bag. "We'll be okay." Grace looked around at their makeshift shelter, her small face etched with concern. "Mommy, will we be here for a long time?" Sarah knelt beside her, smoothing her hair with a tired smile. "I hope not, sweetie. We're going to find somewhere better soon. For now, let's just stay warm and dry." As Grace huddled in the blanket, Sarah took out the envelope Emily had given her, carefully opening it to reveal the money inside. She felt a surge of gratitude mixed with the heavy burden of her current circumstances. Emily's kindness had provided them with a glimmer of hope amid their struggle. In the dim light of the abandoned building, Sarah found a moment of solace as she thought of Emily's words. The gesture had been more than just a financial aid, it was a reminder that compassion and kindness still existed in the world. It was a small but significant beacon of hope. The rain continued its relentless downpour, but for the first time in a while, Sarah felt a spark of optimism. She was determined to use the gift from Emily to secure a better place for them, a place where they could begin to rebuild their lives. The night was far from over, but with Grace by her side and a renewed sense of hope, Sarah faced the challenges ahead with a resilient spirit. As Sarah held Grace close, the rain continued to drum around them, a relentless reminder of their difficult situation. Her discomfort and fear were momentarily overshadowed by her need to protect and comfort her daughter. Grace's small body shivered against Sarah's chest, and Sarah tried to focus on keeping her daughter warm and calm. She wished she could shield Grace from everything, but the reality was harsh and unforgiving. After a few moments of silence, Grace looked up, her eyes wide with concern. "Mommy, are we going to be okay?" Sarah's heart ached at the question, but she tried to reassure her daughter with a confident tone. "Yes, Grace, we're going to be okay. We'll get through this together." The rain showed no sign of letting up, and the cold was seeping into Sarah's bones. She knew they needed to find more substantial shelter soon. Just then, the sound of a car's tires splashing through the puddles caught her attention. She looked up, hopeful for any sign of help or warmth. The car, a modest sedan, slowed as it approached the alley. The driver, a middle-aged man with a concerned expression, rolled down the window. "Are you folks all right?" he called out, his voice carrying over the rain. "I saw you get splashed back there." Sarah hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward, holding Grace close. "We're just trying to find somewhere warm to stay. We've had a rough night." The man's face softened with sympathy. "I can't offer you a ride, but there's a shelter a few blocks from here. It's not far, and they might be able to help you out." Sarah felt a flicker of hope. "Thank you so much. We'll head there right away." The man gave them a warm smile. "You're welcome. Stay safe out here." Sarah waved gratefully as the car drove off, then gently took Grace's hand. "We're going to go to the shelter now, okay? It's going to be all right." Grace nodded, her small hand trembling slightly in Sarah's grasp. They made their way through the rain, the shelter now a beacon of hope in their desperate search for safety. As they approached the shelter, Sarah noticed its warm lights glowing through the windows. The sight was a comforting contrast to the cold, wet world outside. With each step, her hope grew stronger, and she felt a renewed sense of determination. When they finally reached the shelter, the warmth and light from within seemed to embrace them. Sarah opened the door, and the shelter staff welcomed them with kind smiles and gentle words. They were given dry clothes, a warm meal, and a place to rest. As Sarah settled Grace into a comfortable cot and watched her fall asleep, she felt a deep sense of relief. The night had been harsh, but the kindness of strangers and their resilience had brought them to a place of safety. Sarah sat beside Grace, her heart still heavy but filled with gratitude. She whispered another silent prayer, this time of thanks for the unexpected help and the hope that had guided them through the storm. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. The name Jacob stirred a memory of the compassionate man who had given them encouragement and kindness. She looked at David, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and confusion. Jacob. Yes, I remember him. He helped us when we were in a tough spot. How do you know about us? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. David's eyes softened with understanding. My father told me about you and your daughter. He was deeply touched by your kindness, and when he heard about your situation, he wanted to help. I've been trying to find you to make sure you and Grace are okay. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. The unexpected gesture of kindness from Jacob's family was more than she could have hoped for. Thank you so much, she said, her voice breaking. We've been struggling and haven't had much luck finding a safe place. It means so much to us. David reached into his car and pulled out a warm blanket and a large envelope. Here, take this blanket. It should help with the cold. and this envelope contains some funds to help you get back on your feet." Sarah took the items, her hands trembling. "I don't know how to thank you enough." David smiled reassuringly. "Just take care of yourselves. That's all we need." He looked at Grace, who was clinging to Sarah and staring at David with curiosity. "And thank you, Grace, for being such a brave little girl. I hope this helps you feel a bit warmer and safer." Grace gave David a shy smile. "Thank you." David nodded and gave Sarah one last encouraging smile before getting back into his car. "If you need anything else, don't hesitate to call. Here's my number." With that, he drove off into the rainy night, leaving Sarah and Grace enveloped in a warm blanket of compassion and hope. As Sarah wrapped the blanket around them, she felt a profound sense of relief. The envelope David had given her would provide some much-needed security, and the kindness from Jacob's family was a beacon of light in their dark times. "Mommy, are we going to be okay now?" Grace asked, her voice filled with a glimmer of hope. "Yes," Sarah replied, her voice steady and filled with renewed determination. "We're going to be okay. We've been shown so much kindness and we have each other. That's what matters most." They continued their journey through the rain, the blanket offering warmth and comfort. With each step, Sarah felt more hopeful about the future, buoyed by the kindness of strangers who had reached out when they needed it most. Sarah's heart ached with a mixture of gratitude and exhaustion as she watched Grace begin to drift off. She brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's face and tucked her in gently. "You're welcome, sweetheart," Sarah whispered, pressing a kiss to Grace's forehead. "I'm so glad we're safe and warm now." She took a moment to appreciate the coziness of the room, a stark contrast to the harsh, cold rain they had faced just hours before. The room was tastefully decorated, with a soft bed, warm blankets, and a gentle glow from the bedside lamp. After ensuring Grace was comfortable, Sarah took a deep breath and stepped out into the hallway, where she found David waiting with a kind, reassuring smile. "I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for us," Sarah said, her voice full of emotion. "You've given us hope when we had none." David shook his head. "You don't need to thank me. It was Jacob's wish to help you, and I'm just glad I could follow through. You and Grace have shown incredible strength and kindness, and that's what matters most." Sarah felt a tear slip down her cheek. "It means so much to hear that. I was beginning to lose hope." David placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes we all need a little help to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Just know that there are people who care and want to make a difference." Sarah nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you for reminding me of that. We'll be okay now, thanks to you." David smiled warmly. "If you need anything else or if there's any way I can assist further, don't hesitate to reach out. And please, rest and take care of yourselves." With that, David bid them good night and left the guest house. Sarah returned to the room, where she sat by Grace's bed for a moment longer, watching her daughter sleep peacefully. As she gazed out the window at the now clear sky, Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope. The road ahead might still be uncertain, but the kindness she and Grace had experienced was a powerful reminder that even in the darkest times, there was light and compassion to be found. She closed her eyes and offered a silent prayer of thanks, feeling a profound sense of peace wash over her as she looked forward to the new day. "It is," Sarah agreed, taking a seat beside Jacob's bed. "I wanted to thank you again for everything. Your kindness has meant more to us than words can express." Jacob's eyes softened with genuine warmth. "I'm just glad you and Grace are doing better. It's heartwarming to see how your strength and perseverance have brought about such positive changes." Sarah nodded, feeling a swell of gratitude. "It's all thanks to the kindness of people like you and David. It's incredible how much a little compassion can change lives. The morning sun cast a golden light through the window, filling the room with a comforting warmth. Sarah and Jacob chatted about the upcoming days, sharing their hopes and dreams. Jacob offered advice and encouragement, his words echoing the wisdom of a life well lived. As the day went on, Sarah and Grace settled into their new routine. Sarah's first day at the bookstore went exceptionally well. The work was fulfilling, and she felt a sense of purpose and belonging. The bookstore's cozy atmosphere and the friendly interactions with customers were a welcome change from the hardships they had faced. In the evenings, Sarah and Grace would often join Jacob and David for meals and conversations. The bonds they had formed became a source of strength and joy. David continued to offer support, and his presence was a reminder of the kindness that had guided them through their struggles. One afternoon, as Sarah and Grace walked to the bookstore, Grace looked up at her mother with a wide smile. "Mommy, I'm really happy here," Grace said, her eyes sparkling. "It feels like we're home." Sarah's heart swelled with emotion. She looked down at her daughter, her eyes filled with tears of joy. "I'm happy too, Grace. It feels like we finally found a place where we belong." As they approached the bookstore, Sarah took a deep breath, ready to embrace the new chapter of their lives. The support and compassion they had received had transformed their lives, and each day brought new opportunities for growth and happiness. With a renewed sense of hope and the warmth of newfound friendships, Sarah knew that they were on the path to a brighter future. The challenges of the past had forged a new beginning, and together, they were ready to face whatever came next. As Sarah and Jacob walked through the garden, the gentle hum of bees and the chirping of birds added a serene soundtrack to their morning. Grace, full of boundless energy, darted from flower to flower, her laughter mingling with the sounds of nature. "Mommy, look at this flower," Grace called out, her tiny hands holding up a vibrant bloom. "That's a lovely one," Grace, Sarah said, her heart swelling with affection for her daughter's enthusiasm. Jacob watched them with a fond smile. "Children have a special way of seeing the beauty in everything," he remarked. "It's a gift they hold on to even as they grow older." Sarah nodded in agreement. "It's true. Sometimes I wish I could see the world through her eyes, so full of wonder and possibility." Jacob chuckled softly. It's never too late to rediscover that sense of wonder. Sometimes all it takes is a little time in the right company. As they wandered through the garden, Jacob shared more stories about his life and his late wife, each tale painting a picture of love and resilience. Sarah listened, captivated by the depth of his experiences and the wisdom he imparted. Later, they all gathered for a light lunch in the garden, enjoying sandwiches and fresh fruit under the shade of a large oak tree. The atmosphere was relaxed, and for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in months. After lunch, David suggested they take a trip to a nearby park. "I thought it might be nice to get out and enjoy some fresh air. What do you think?" "That sounds wonderful," Sarah agreed, her spirits lifting at the idea of another outing. They drove to the park, where the open spaces and gentle breeze felt like a balm for their souls. Sarah and Grace played on the swings, while David and Jacob sat on a bench, talking and watching them with smiles. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Sarah felt a profound sense of gratitude. The trials they had faced were still a part of their lives, but the kindness they had encountered had given them a new perspective. As they drove back home, Grace's sleepy head resting on Sarah's shoulder, Sarah looked out the window, feeling a renewed hope for the future. "Thank you, David," she said softly, her voice filled with emotion. "For everything. Your generosity has given us more than just comfort, it's given us hope." David glanced at her, his expression warm and sincere. "You and Grace deserve it. Sometimes, helping others is the most rewarding thing we can do. They returned to David's home, where the evening was spent in quiet reflection and gratitude. As Sarah tucked Grace into bed, she felt a sense of contentment that had been elusive for so long. "Good night, sweetheart," Sarah whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead. "Good night, Mommy," Grace murmured, already drifting off to sleep. Sarah sat by her daughter's bedside for a few moments, her heart full of love and hope. The path ahead was still uncertain, but she felt ready to face it with newfound strength and the support of the incredible people she had met along the way. As the days grew warmer and the atmosphere at David's home continued to be filled with warmth and kindness, Sarah found herself reflecting on her journey. The stories Jacob shared and the support David provided had given her a sense of stability she hadn't felt in months. Still, a small but significant wish lingered in her heart. One evening, as they gathered for dinner, Sarah broached the subject with David and Jacob. "There's something I've been thinking about," Sarah began, her voice tinged with hesitation. "I'd like to do something to give back, to show my gratitude for everything you've done for us." David looked at her with curiosity. "What do you have in mind?" Sarah took a deep breath, feeling a mix of nervousness and determination. "I've been thinking about starting a community outreach program, something that helps people in need, especially those going through tough times like we did. I want to use my experience to support others." Jacob's eyes lit up with interest. "That sounds like a wonderful idea, Sarah. It's a beautiful way to give back and honor the kindness you've received." David nodded in agreement. "I think it's a fantastic idea. You've experienced firsthand the impact of support and compassion, and you're in a unique position to offer that to others." Sarah's heart swelled with gratitude. "Thank you. I'm excited about the possibility, but I know it will take a lot of work. I was hoping to get some advice and perhaps some support to get it started." David offered a reassuring smile. "We'll help in any way we can. Let's talk about how we can make your vision a reality." Over the next few weeks, Sarah and David began planning the outreach program. They brainstormed ideas, reached out to local organizations, and mapped out a strategy for how to assist those in need. Jacob's stories and wisdom continued to inspire Sarah, reminding her of the resilience and hope that could be found even in the darkest times. Grace remained a joyful presence throughout the planning, her enthusiasm and optimism adding a sense of lightness to the process. She often drew pictures and wrote little notes to include in care packages, her way of contributing to the new venture. One sunny afternoon, Sarah, David, and Jacob visited a local community center to discuss their plans with the director. The meeting was productive, and the director was enthusiastic about the idea, offering support and resources to help get the program off the ground. As they left the center, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey that had begun with struggle and uncertainty was now taking shape into something positive and meaningful. With David and Jacob's support, she was ready to turn her vision into reality. That evening, as they sat together in the living room, Jacob spoke with a gentle smile. "Sarah, you've come so far, and I'm proud of what you're doing. It's a testament to your strength and the kindness you've shown." Sarah's eyes filled with tears once more, but this time they were tears of joy and gratitude. "Thank you, Jacob. Your support means more than words can express." As the sun set and the room filled with the soft glow of evening light, Sarah felt a deep sense of contentment. The past weeks had been a journey of healing and transformation, and now, with the support of those around her, she was ready to make a difference in the world. Her heart was full of hope, and she knew that, with determination and the kindness she had experienced, she could help others find their path to light and resilience. As they sat around the table, the diner's familiar ambience wrapped them in a sense of comfort and belonging. Maggie, with her ever-present warmth, served everyone a hearty meal while Emily chimed in with cheerful anecdotes. Sarah felt a profound sense of gratitude and relief, as if each bite of food and each shared laugh was a testament to the kindness they had encountered along their journey. So Sarah Maggie began, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. "How have you and Grace been? I've heard bits and pieces from David, but I'd love to hear it from you." Sarah took a sip of her tea, feeling the warmth spread through her. "We've been doing well thanks to David and Jacob. They've given us a new sense of stability and hope. Grace is starting to feel more at ease, and I've even found a job at the bookstore." Emily's eyes widened in delight. "That's wonderful news. I'm so happy for you both. It's amazing to see how far you've come." Grace, sitting next to Sarah, beamed with pride. "Mommy's been working hard, and we've got a nice place to stay. It's like a dream come true." Maggie nodded, her expression filled with admiration. "You've both shown so much strength and resilience. It's no surprise that you're finding your way again." As the evening wore on, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. They reminisced about the old days, shared updates on the town, and talked about their hopes for the future. The sense of camaraderie and connection felt both comforting and invigorating. Towards the end of the meal, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the significance of the moment. She stood up and addressed everyone at the table. "I just want to say a few words," Sarah began, her voice slightly trembling with emotion. "Maggie, Emily, David, each of you has played a crucial role in our lives. Your kindness and generosity have not only helped us through our darkest times, but have also inspired us to give back and help others in need." She glanced at Grace, who nodded solemnly, her small hand resting on Sarah's. "Thank you for being our angel," Sarah continued, her eyes glistening with tears. "I'll never forget what you've done for us, and I hope to honor your kindness by making a positive difference in the world." The table fell silent for a moment, each person absorbing Sarah's heartfelt words. Maggie and Emily exchanged glances, their eyes reflecting a mixture of pride and emotion. David, always the supportive presence, smiled warmly. "Sarah's right. The kindness you've shown has rippled through our lives in ways you can't fully imagine." As the evening came to a close, Maggie and Emily insisted on sending Sarah and Grace home with some delicious homemade pies and a few other treats. With heartfelt hugs and promises to stay in touch, Sarah and Grace left the diner feeling a deep sense of closure and contentment. As they drove back to David's home, Grace snuggled into her seat, a contented smile on her face. Sarah glanced over at her daughter, her heart swelling with love and hope. "Today was perfect," Mommy Grace said softly. "Thank you for bringing us back to see Maggie and Emily." Sarah smiled, her eyes on the road ahead. "You're welcome, sweetheart. It was important to me to show them how much they mean to us. And it's thanks to all the amazing people we've met that we're where we are today." As they pulled into the driveway, the warmth of their home seemed even more comforting. The reunion had been a beautiful reminder of the kindness in the world and a testament to the strength and resilience that had carried them through their trials. Sarah knew that while their journey was far from over, they were now walking it with a renewed sense of purpose and a heart full of gratitude. And as she tucked Grace into bed that night, she felt a profound peace, knowing that the future was bright and full of possibilities. As Sarah and Grace settled into their cozy room at David's home, Sarah felt a deep sense of contentment and hope. The day's events had been a beautiful reminder of the kindness that existed in the world and how, even in the darkest times, there could be light and warmth found in the hearts of others. Lying in bed, Sarah gazed out the window at the starry sky. She thought about how far they had come and how the journey had transformed them both. The challenges they had faced had been immense, but the support from people like Maggie, Emily, David, and Jacob had made all the difference. Grace stirred beside her, mumbling softly in her sleep. Sarah gently brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's face, a tender smile spreading across her lips. She felt a profound sense of gratitude for the new beginning they had been given. In the morning, the sun's gentle rays filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the room. Sarah woke with a renewed sense of purpose and optimism. The support and kindness she had received had rekindled her belief in the power of community and the possibility of a brighter future. After a hearty breakfast with David and Jacob, Sarah decided it was time to embrace this new chapter with open arms. She was eager to start her job at the bookstore and create a stable, loving environment for Grace. As they prepared to leave for the bookstore, Grace clutched her new coloring book and looked up at her mother with a beaming smile. "Mommy, are we going to have more adventures today?" Sarah laughed softly, her heart swelling with love. "We are, sweetie. And this time, it's a new adventure filled with exciting possibilities." David waved them off with a warm smile, and as Sarah and Grace walked towards the bookstore, Sarah felt a sense of peace settle over her. The future was uncertain, but she was ready to face it with hope and determination, knowing that they were surrounded by people who cared and believed in them. As they stepped into the bookstore, the smell of fresh paper and ink greeted them, mingling with the promise of new beginnings. Sarah took a deep breath, ready to embark on this new chapter with gratitude and optimism. She was determined to make the most of the opportunities ahead for herself and Grace. With every step they took, Sarah felt the weight of their past hardships lighten, replaced by a renewed sense of hope and the joy of embracing the future together. As we wrap up today's exploration into the rich and nuanced world of relationships, confidence, and divine guidance, I hope you found valuable insights and practical advice that resonate with your journey. From understanding the importance of clear intentions in dating to the integration of Stoic principles and emotional intelligence, we've covered a lot of ground. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one key takeaway from today's video that you plan to apply in your life? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. I'm excited to hear how you're putting these insights into practice. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on nurturing meaningful connections and embracing a life of purpose and faith. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to connecting with you in the next video.